Thank goodness I waited a week to do this video, but now it is official. Kathleen Kennedy is gone.
Told me to be cheeky, then you got fling. Oh,
What is up, YouTube? My name is Mario, aka the real Super Mario. Check out my main channel because the main channel is popping, aka the Loot Box Hero, aka YouTube's greatest fat man here, bringing you another video. All right, so we have some interesting stuff to talk about today. So it looks like finally, after muddling around, will they, won't they, will she, won't she, Kathleen Kennedy is finally leaving Lucasfilm. Yep, so she's done, or at least she's done as the president of Lucasfilm. So she's not the leader. She's not at the forefront anymore. So the role will be her role will be replaced by a duo of Dave Filoni and I believe Lin-Wen Brennan, who is like one of the business people at Lucasfilm. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to copy what DC was doing with James Gunn and Peter Safran, which I think is actually a pretty good idea. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, it should just be one person. It shouldn't be two people." I think doing it this way kind of works because it forces them to balance out their vision, right? So you've got, the James Gunn vision, who is the big creative, and then you've got Peter Safran as the business guy. The business guy, he is kind of stiff, but he knows how to spend money, and the creative guy knows how to tell stories. Together, they can tell stories while also making money. And I think they should be able to do this for Star Wars as well. They should be able to tell stories and be able to make money. I think that's what they're going for with this. Well, I don't 1,000% blame Kathleen Kennedy for what happened with Star Wars. A big part of it is on Kathleen Kennedy. All right. And of course, they're probably going to scapegoat her more than likely. But a big part of it also reigns on the people above Kathleen Kennedy, like Alan Bergman, like Bob Iger, Bob Chapek when he was there. All these people could have checked her at any point because she worked for them. They didn't. All right. So even though we hate Kathleen Kennedy for all the crazy decisions she made, well, I don't hate Kathleen Kennedy. I just think that they did need to get her out of that spot because she had gotten lost in the sauce trying to create her own legacy as this big female producer or whatever. She just got lost in the sauce. But it's not all her fault though. All right, any of those people, Bergman, Iger or Chapek, when he was there, could have checked her and been like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't let, the little round-headed bastard kill Luke Skywalker. Maybe we shouldn't let JJ come in and try to jerry-rig a Star Wars trilogy out of this. Maybe we should do something a little different. Maybe we don't need 15 female-led Star Wars projects, what I'm saying? Like, somebody could have said something like that and none of them ever did. So again, it's not all her fault, but it is partially her fault though. Let's check out the article real quick. It says Lucasfilm and Walt Disney Studios announced leadership transition as Kathleen Kennedy steps down from Lucasfilm leadership to return to producing. Filoni will lead the studio as president and chief creative officer, along with Lin-Wen Brennan as co-president. But Lucasfilm announced today that after 14 years of leading the studio, President Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from her role. Kennedy will return to a full-time producing role, including the studio's upcoming feature films, The Mando and Grogu, and the Star Wars Starfighter. Dave Filoni worked closely with creator George Lucas to build Lucasfilm animation department on Star Wars Clone Wars and helped launch Star Wars live action series alongside Jon Favreau. will take on a leadership role in the company as president and CCO, with Lin Brennan, who will serve as the co-president. So an interesting thing about this is what happens to Favreau at this point, because Favreau, I thought that they were like a duo, them two creatively. Maybe Favreau didn't want to do the business stuff because Favreau himself is also a creative. So maybe he didn't want to be the business guy, you know what I'm saying? So he was like, I don't want that spot. So he decided not to take it. Or maybe he got snubbed. That's entirely possible. All right, that's entirely possible, which that could create some issues there, you know. Their close collaboration and more than 30 years of combined senior executive experience will carry Lucasfilm into the next chapter of storytelling with a strong foundation of creative vision and operational leadership guiding the studio forward. So I think this is going to be interesting. All right, I think this is going to be interesting. So a lot of people are celebrating. I can already see the narrative shifting. All right, so people are going to shift from hating Star Wars because of Kathleen to hating Star Wars because of Dave Filoni, because there's already a lot of Filoni haters out there, and I can already see the Griff narrative shifting now, where they're going to be like, oh, it's still bad because Filoni's there. Don't celebrate now. Star Wars is still dead. And to be honest, like where Filoni has had some issues, like his obsession with Ahsoka, because that's like his waifu or whatever, I think that creatively he is definitely better than Kathleen Kennedy. All right, Kathleen Kennedy is more of a business mind than she is a creative mind. All right, and since she tried to do both, it didn't work. She tried to create this legacy for herself while also trying to do the business stuff. And then the business stuff worked for a little bit, all right, because she made $3 billion movies. But the creative stuff didn't. And eventually the creative stuff drug everything down, and now Star Wars is in the place where it's in. So what does Star Wars need to do? All right, now that she's gone. Well, here we go. So they're kind of doing what they need to do anyway. All right, because I think the last time I made this video, because I feel like I've done this like 3 times already. But the last time I made this video, I said they needed to go in on video games. And guess what? They've gone in on video games. They have announced several Star Wars video games. They've announced Zero Company, which is the strategy game, like the one that's kind of like XCOM. They've announced Galactic Racer, which is the pod racer game, which, again, is pretty interesting. It's definitely a little different from Star Wars. Star Wars Eclipse, which is the one that's being done by the people that did Heavy Rain, which, I mean, we haven't heard anything about that game in years, so hopefully it's still a thing. Then, of course, there's Fate of the Old Republic, and then there's the Knights of the Old Republic remake. So all these are good things. All right, they also need to push some more into like some Star Wars collaborations, okay? All right, the next thing they need to do is they need to greenlight that Ben Solo movie. All right, because that was something that a lot of people have been talking about recently, and I feel like they did that on purpose because they knew this was coming down the pike, so they wanted people talking about that Ben Solo movie. I feel like that was done purposefully. So they need to go ahead and greenlight that movie. They also need to go back and get the Yoda movie that they were going to do years ago. Go back and get that movie. All right, brush it off. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is animation. All right, Star Wars needs to put in with animation. All right, they already kind of do with the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch. They need to do a Star Wars What If show. Animated Star Wars What If. All right, look, take some more money, right? Go to find this guy named Stupendous Wave. Just buy his channel, okay? Retire this man. All right? Give this man some money. Buy his channel. His channel has some of the most cool Star Wars What If scenarios on the internet. Just buy his channel and then animate the things he's already written. You don't have to do that for real, but a Star Wars What If show would be amazing. Okay. All right. It will probably be even better than Marvel What If. All right. Because, I mean, theories are a big thing in nerddom. You know what I'm saying? And, what if the Jedi's found Palpatine and trained him and he didn't become evil? Or what if Yoda killed Palpatine, in Coruscant instead of losing and then going to hide? What if Obi-Wan lost? What happens if Obi-Wan lost to Anakin? You know what I'm saying? What happens if Anakin didn't get burnt up? Would he turn on Palpatine and become the Dark Emperor himself? Or what? Like that kind of stuff, that's money. That's gold, man. All right. Imagine animated what if series. And here's the thing, you don't even have to do like Marvel and try to connect it to the main thing. Just do the what if stories. And I know somebody's gonna be like, well, who asked for this? Who is this made for? Like, look, shut up. Okay. All right. Not everything has to be some centralized story. Sometimes you just want to tell a one-off story. Do that. Another thing you should do is there should be a young like Luke series. So to kind of fill in what happened between the end of the OG trilogy and the sequel trilogy. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Tales of Luke's Jedi Academy. The Luke Jedi Academy show should be animated. You can get like, if you want to get Mark Hamill to do Luke, you can, but Mark Hamill is slowly evolving into Jake Skywalker before our very eyes. So maybe not. Maybe you want to get somebody else to play him. But no. You need to do that Luke series though. That Luke Jedi Academy series, do that sucker. All right, and this will start the slow rebuild of the sequel trilogy. All right, because here's the thing, people hate Dave Filoni. All right, but what Dave Filoni did made you like the sequel trilogy. I mean, the prequel trilogy. Everything you like about the prequel trilogy is probably because of something that Dave Filoni filled in with the years and years of Clone Wars. All right, I'm just saying. Somebody needs to do that same thing for the prequel series. All right, for the sequel series. All right, do some retcons, fill in the gaps, expand on some story. Maybe we'll actually get to figure out what the Knights of Ren actually are. Stuff like that. And I guarantee you in 10 years, people will be loving the sequel series. The sequel series. I'm just saying. All right. They also need to have a head of Star Wars television. Okay. And because Marvel kind of does this where Kevin Feige runs everything, but you also have somebody that specifically does TV that reports to Feige. They need somebody that does Star Wars TV that reports to Filoni and Brendan. All right, originally for this spot, I wanted to go with Joby Harold. All right, he's the producer behind the Edge of Tomorrow movie, the good King Arthur movie that nobody saw back in 2017. But then I realized he also did Army of the Dead and Transformers Rise of the Beast and Atlas. So I was like, maybe not. Then I figured another person who would be perfect for this would be Josh Cooley. Now, if you don't know who Josh Cooley is the guy who did Transformers 1. Arguably the best Transformers project we've seen since the original Michael Bay Transformers movie. All right, he was also part of directing Toy Story 4, but we don't really talk about that one. But still, you know what I'm saying? Josh Cooley, scoop up Josh Cooley from Paramount, punish them, make them pay for canceling Transformers 2, all right, and make him the head of Star Wars television and animation. All right, he will report directly to Filoni and Brennan, and of course he would handle stuff like the Luke's Jedi Academy series, the young I guess maybe the young Luke series if you wanted to do something like that. He would handle, just the Disney Plus stuff. All right. And of course, a lot of it's going to be overseen by Filoni himself. So there's no creative continuity issues. I think this will be perfect. All right. Get Josh Cooley a Star Wars thing immediately. Okay. They need to do a that Rey movie. You need to get rid of old man Chinstrap or whatever her name is. She got to go. All right. Cut immediately out of here. Okay. All right. Get that Rey movie and get it to somebody else and make that Rey movie like the end of the sequel trilogy, right? Make that the end of the sequel era, All right. That ends the Rey story, and so that way you can set up something different, All right. And start a brand new trilogy moving beyond this stuff. Okay. All right. That's something that you need to do. Okay. Because you can keep looking back and we can keep doing, but you need to have a forward motion story in Star Wars. All right. So much of the stuff that you're making now are, stuff from the OG trilogy, stuff from the prequels. You need to have some forward motion. Another thing is you need a big news project, a big herald project, a project that will create buzz. I believe with my heart of hearts that project is something involving Peter Jackson. All right, that's what I would do. Okay, look, I don't care how much money it takes. Okay, I don't care if you got to rent an apartment in New Zealand so you can sporadically run into this man during his day. Get Peter Jackson to do a Star Wars movie. Okay, just one. He doesn't even have to do a trilogy. All right, let him get some freedom. He don't have to do a trilogy. You don't have to lock him down for the next 10 years. Just get him to do one. Because you want the headlines, Peter Jackson Star Wars. Because right now, Star Wars needs some buzz. It needs some sizzle. All right, and there's nothing quite like a sizzle than a headline, bro. Bring in Peter Jackson. Just have him do one movie. It doesn't even have to be I would have that movie be the thing that start the new trilogy. All right, so I had another idea when I was editing this. It's gonna take me so long to do this. But okay, all right. Andy Muschietti's Dawn of the Jedi movie. All right, so they shelved that movie because Andy Muschietti wanted to move on and do other stuff, and his plans are probably changing. Yo, get the Dawn of the Jedi movie and give it to Peter Jackson. Can you imagine that, like a very, very early Jedi movie, and he's got that Lord of the Rings energy? Oh my God! Come on, tell me that would not be absolute flames, bro. All right, come on now. Dawn of the Jedi, Peter Jackson, make it happen. Make that happen. So these are the things they need to do. They need to go into animation. Star Wars anime would be nice. I mean, but the anime industry, maybe, you know what? Instead of going with anime, maybe Star Wars should get with China. All right, because China has more of as much as I hate the China slop that they keep putting out, they have so much of a workforce that they can actually output more. So maybe they could work with China to get like a Star Wars monome, because it's not anime. Something like that going on a semi-yearly basis. But yeah, get into animation, lean more into video games, get Peter Jackson, and start a new story arc for Star Wars. That's it. That's it right there. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. You think Mario, you're crazy, Star Wars is dead, blah, 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 or, tell me what you think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, people, have yourself a good one, and thank you for watching.